Hello and welcome to Off the Brawl on Off the Ball. I'm Ronan Mullen. I'm joined as ever by Phil the Power Egan and Simon On Fire Maguire. Simon, are you called On Fire because you're ablaze, doused in flames, or are you just because you're hot off the collar, hot on the button?
Hot on the button, yeah. Now, I had a white collar boxing match back in the day and I lost on a controversial points decision, so that's where that comes from, I think.
Just Adam Smith has sort of set this thing in motion where we're kind of delving into the reasons behind people's nicknames. So
I have no power.
No power at all?
No.
That's disappointing. Oh, God. It was a kind of a bizarre opening to events in Manchester, wasn't it?
It was. You were there. He kept that quiet, by the way.
I'm just wondering, if he keeps that quiet, what else is he keeping from us?
That's it. Is his name even Ronan?
Yeah. I only told the entire Off the Brawl audience a couple of weeks ago that I was going to this fight.
Oh, we weren't listening.
Got lots of correspondence from all our fans, all our several fans, so they knew I was going.
I bet you he's one of those guys who has blue ticks knocked off on his WhatsApp messages as well.
And my last scene.
Yeah.
Last scene's not there either, no.
Yeah, there you are.
Can you do that?
See, it's a double-edged sword because if you do that, you can't see other people's either. So, like, you're playing with fire there a bit, Simon, aren't you?
I wouldn't know. It doesn't bother me that much.
Typing.
Typing, yeah. Right, well, cool. There is actually only one place to start, and that is with events in Manchester. Tony Bellew rolled the dice for all the marbles on Saturday, but it was Oleksandr Usyk who was the last man standing.
Usyk with a beautiful jab, and he's finding the chin of Bellew with more regularity. Yeah, really starting to get home now with these quality punches from Usyk, and you can see Tony Bellew wearing down, still looking for that right hand, still gallant and still brave. But Usyk is really closing this gap with real, minimum effort. And that's really lights out for Tony Bellew. Dave Colwell slips in the ring. I think he's going to stop it. And Oleksandr Usyk finds the answer and cements his place as the world Cruiserweight king. He had a rough start. Tony Bellew gave him problems early, but he was just getting into more of a punishing rhythm and found a shot that laid Bellew out. And Tony Bellew's brave effort comes to an end, but hats off to the way Oleksandr Usyk turned that around and made it his fight and his night.
Yeah, that was Carl Froch and Adam Smith on the call there. They were joined for comms by Paulie Malignaggi and David Hay. Is that the most star-studded commentary team?
I have to say, Paulie Malignaggi was the man of the match for me, because he's
always great though.
Well,
he's the magic man.
I can understand because it's a Sky fight like that, and Bellew, look, you were at the fight, and I'm sure you were as surprised as any by the start that he made.
Oh yeah, sure. Like, he kind of played into this thing in the build-up to the fight where he was playing up to the brawler versus boxer dynamic, but we've said it all along since this fight was announced that he is a very underrated boxer in his own right. Granted, Usyk is, on another level, and there was no argument there, but it was always going to be a sort of a cagey opening, and like, he was brilliant, I thought, in the first 6 rounds. Like, I think I had it level halfway through, or no, I had it level going into the 7th round, or into the 8th round. And so Bellew was 1 up on my card at the halfway point, but he took a big shot
at the end of the 6th. That was actually, I think that was the end really for him, and it was really sloppy. Like, he shouldn't have taken that shot. The bell had just gone.
Yeah, like.
But look, he was going to lose anyway. The pace was relentless, and kind of from the 4th on, Usyk just closes you down. Myself and Simon were watching a video of Usyk there last week dancing.
Yeah.
Like, his movement is incredible.
Yeah, he's a very...
Look at those Ukrainians and their movement.
I know, yeah.
The dancing. We need to learn how to dance like Ukrainians.
Yeah, his movement is brilliant, and Bellew was doing his own bit of dancing, and he was a lot of showboating as well, but the levels of concentration required for Bellew to maybe box outside his comfort zone, like, that's mental fatigue as much as physical fatigue, and that kind of bore out towards the end of the fight. Like, when you're concentrating that hard, people know that from sort of any sporting endeavour, when you have to concentrate so, markedly, and then that drains you physically as well, whereas Usyk, it's second nature to him. Like, he's dancing around the ring, and that's just, as I said, second nature to him. Simon, what did you think of it?
It was a beautiful display by Usyk. Bellew kind of threw something at him that he might not have been entirely expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting it, Tony Bellew to put in a counter-punch display like that. But I haven't been this excited for a fighter in a long, long time to see what he can now go and do. We kind of knew his amateur pedigree. We knew he built himself up slowly off circuit in the WSB and the World Super Series, and then to see it all come to fruition like that, he's burst into the mainstream boxing kind of superstardom now. Certainly in Europe and in the UK and in Ireland, and I hope he gets to go to America next. I think, well, I know that he's going to move up to heavyweight, but it's just to see a guy that big, that light on his feet, that smart in the ring. I can't remember. Maybe when Andre Ward first came on the scene, but even then, I don't think he was as explosive as Usyk is. And in terms of he'd just go anywhere and fight anyone, and I think that's a great thing to have on his CV now. Yeah,
no, he's the ultimate road warrior. Like, he beat Marco Huck in Germany, beat Maris Bredis in Riga. Then beat
earlier this year. That's 3 fights, by the way.
In Russia.
That's 3 road fights he's had in a year.
And then England to beat Bellew as well.
Yeah, see, I just think that the fact that he beat Bellew in Manchester, and I don't know, like, what was the sense in the crowd before the fight, because, you know, these events, obviously there's some casual fans that go along, and because they're great events, like, the atmosphere looked unbelievable. But was there a sense that Bellew could actually win?
Well, it had the recipe for all those classic nights in recent years, where you had just this perfect recipe where upsets can happen. When Ricky Hatton beat Costa, it was fervent atmosphere seeping through the television. Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey, and then there's more recent ones where it didn't work out, like Kell Brook against Erroll Spence. You know, sometimes the differential between the fighters makes all those outside factors irrelevant. And while Manchester was hopping on Saturday, like, there's only 2 men in the ring at the end of the day, plus the referee, and it's always going to come down to skills more than anything, really.
But the thing is, the UK crowd have now seen Usyk, and if he had won, but a lot of people thought maybe he'd win it on points, and if he had done that and just outboxed Bellew for 12 rounds, I don't know if he would have caught the imagination of the UK fans that were there. But the fact that, you know, he had to kind of work it out early in the fight, what's going wrong here, changed it, the fight became his fight, and then he finishes Bellew in brutal style, clinical. Like, the UK fans are thinking, I want to see this guy again, and that's, like, he could make a lot more money in the UK than he could in the US, I'd say.
So I remember we spoke to Andy a couple of weeks ago about the mental fatigue of facing Golovkin, for example. You know, that constant pressure of thinking you're going to be on the receiving end of a big shot, and that makes you throw when you don't want to. And I kind of felt that was the case with Bellew as well. Like, he was concentrating so hard that Usyk sort of wore him out. And there's comparisons being made to Mayweather, where Mayweather would typically take the first 2 rounds off just to kind of see what his opponent was all about. I thought it might be doing Bellew a little bit of a disservice to say that about Saturday night, but do you think Usyk was sort of in second gear for the first half of the fight?
I know what you're saying in relation to Mayweather taking rounds off. I don't think Usyk did. No. I just think he was a little bit baffled, actually, by Bellew's strategy. I was as well. You know, I mean, a lot of people were. I know we were kind of going back and forth after the fight. I think it just took him a bit longer to get to grips with what was going on. And obviously, any time Bellew landed, the crowd exploded. But even though he might have been only hitting the glove, but I think I gave him the first couple of rounds. But they were getting a bit excited on Sky, going, "Oh, you know, there's an upset on the cards here."
I think I had 3 rounds.
First 3 you could
3 rounds to Bellew, 2 rounds to Usyk, and 1 even.
It was more in surprise. They're like, "Oh my God, Tony Bellew's won the first 3 rounds,"
which is kind of natural enough. Like, I remember Bernard Dunn when he fought for the world title as a big underdog. Dave Boy McCauley was basically jumping out of his seat every time Bernard Dunn, you know, threw a shot. So it's kind of natural enough that you're going to support your home fighter, and that's why Paulie Malignaggi is there, presumably, to keep the objectivity on an even keel. But
thank God, yeah,
he's just a great commentator, like, in fairness. But
I think just to follow on there about, like, if you look at some of the early Sky ads, they tried to kind of paint Usyk up as the second coming of Ivan Drago. Even in one of the ads, he has what can Tony Bellew do next, and he has an evil cackle as he lifts the Muhammad Ali trophy in Moscow. But then you get to see him in the week and the 2 weeks in the build up to the fight, and you see his personality really come out. And like the next move for him, I think, has to be to try and learn English to a spoken level, a more fluent level, and he can conquer America pretty quickly.
There's a bit of a charm to his pidgin English, though, isn't there? The way Golovkin he's almost won over the American market through his sort of.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but Usyk is funnier, and I just think he could really capitalise now if he just gets a few. I'm not saying fluent, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, what's next? Does he go straight up to heavyweight?
Yeah, like that point we made there about taking the first couple of rounds off, like that's not going to fly at heavyweight. Do you know, if you try that, you're going to get knocked out real quick. So I think he's definitely got the skills, and he's listed at 6'3", but he looks a lot bigger than that. I think he might be kind of underselling his size a little bit.
In terms of the weight he was going into the fight, I reckon he was
Wilder
just over 15 stone, so he wasn't actually far off.
Like Wilder fights at that weight.
Yeah.
So.
But see, Wilder has dynamite in his hands, like.
But you can't hit what's invisible, Phil.
It's true. I just wonder, there's some good fights out there for him in the heavyweight division before. Like, obviously, everyone's going to talk about Usyk fighting Anthony Joshua, but that's not going to happen for, you're talking maybe 2 years down the line. But all the heavyweights will want to fight him because they'll be thinking, if I hit him, I can hurt him. So, someone like Joseph Parker, you know, he's fought.
That's a great fight.
That's a great call,
You know, Dylan White, he'll fancy a crack at him. Del Boy Chisora, all these lads. But these are lads that, you know, people know them in the UK, so Eddie Hearn obviously has a say in this now. He could bring Usyk back over, put it on in London somewhere maybe, and then we'll see what he's... Like, if he takes a few digs off, you know, an established heavyweight, then people can say, okay, he has the chin for the heavyweight division. But then it's being able to get near the big three, Wilder, Fury or Joshua. We don't know. But I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Like, one of the few things I didn't expect to happen was Bellew to get tired as he did. And it was only afterwards when I looked into it that since he fought Masternak for the European title that was on the White Joshua undercard, he's only boxed 22 rounds, whereas in that same time Usyk has done 67 rounds. So, like, people were saying Usyk was relatively inexperienced as a pro, but in reality he was the one that was ready to take it into the deep water. So that kind of caught me in the hop. I don't know about you, but the knockout itself, it's worth touching on. It was spectacular, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was... He changed the way he was throwing punches. He was throwing straight lefts and they weren't landing, or he was missing, and he started trucking loopy hooks. And he just set it up perfectly. Excuse me, he set it up perfectly, really. And it was just the perfect length. He just got him right in the button, and you know, it was all over. I don't really know what to say. It was just the perfect ending to what he needed to be. Almost a perfect performance to break into the...
Yeah, and he's perversely photogenic, Phil, isn't he? I remember you touched on the picture last week with Packy about the one of Usyk watching Joshua.
Yeah.
And then there's a brilliant picture of him like leering over a prone Tony Bellew on the ground. Like, he's just, for some reason, he's getting captured in these brilliant shots. And as you said, that's going to play brilliantly when you're trying to market him as this monster.
And the knockout, you know, you can add that to the highlight reel because obviously, you know, in his last fight it was just a clinic for 12 rounds, but this was a knockout, and you can add it to the highlight reel, and it was a brutal knockout. I don't even know how Bellew got up from it, to be honest.
Yeah, fair play to him. Like, it was a reflex, wasn't it?
Like, he was out cold.
He was buzzed pretty badly about 3 seconds beforehand.
Yeah, he was.
And just his own bravery and solid chin kept him up, and it was really a free shot that knocked him out, you know.
Yeah, and one bit of contention after the fight was the decision by Sky and subsequently BBC to interview Bellew in the ring.
Yeah.
A lot being made of that now, and like, I know UFC have a policy, a relatively new one, where they won't interview fighters who've been knocked out in the ring or in the octagon. So like, it was uncomfortable viewing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but see, like, this is the dilemma you have, where a lot of the people inside the Manchester Arena were there to see Tony Bellew, and they want to hear from him, and it's his last ever fight, and this is his chance to say his goodbye. But it didn't transpire that way because he wasn't in a good place. And you know, what can you do if you're Sky or say BBC, where nobody from Bellew's team is saying, I don't want you to talk to him? They've given you the green light to talk to him. So that's something. And you know, the British Boxing Board of Control, they're there as well. If they think that there's an issue, then they can say, look, we need to check this guy out. He's just suffered a really bad knockout. Maybe we won't do the ring interviews. Maybe we'll bring him backstage, bring him into the changing room, see how he is, and then we can do the media stuff after.
Yeah, they generally don't tend to put rugby players who've been through HIAs up for post-match either.
Stands to reason, doesn't it?
It does.
Because he repeated a lot of stuff, and
yeah, you don't want that living on, and it's a shame that, like,
they should have had the journalistic integrity to go, actually no, he shouldn't.
And,
Let's call it as it is. They should not have interviewed him themselves. Pushy or not, numbers or not, they shouldn't have done it.
And when it became apparent that he was repeating himself, they probably should have taken it upon themselves to cut it short at that point, but they just can't press it. And Eddie Hearn was there and Dave Caldwell was there. They could easily have just switched it to have a chat with them, but I suppose when you're in the moment, it's easy for us to say.
And the fact that Eddie Hearn and Dave Caldwell were there, though, I mean, they're saying, lads, like, this is okay. So that's not a criticism of them. It's just the way it's part and parcel of boxing, where we always hear from the winner and the loser. And do you know what? It could have been different if, going back to what Simon said about Usyk having a better grasp of the English language, maybe they would have gone straight over to him.
Yeah.
And then the Bellew interview mightn't have happened.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like, it's not a good look, but Bellew's post-fight press conference was something to behold. In fairness, I'd encourage people to seek that out. The full version is available online. A lot of very considered stuff from him, but some real emotion as well.
I'm not weight trained. I've done the weight great. I lost to the best fighter I've ever seen. He fell for me traps a few times. When I thought he definitely didn't think I could box with him. He definitely didn't see that in me. My little adjustments with the feet, but ultimately he got me. And if I'm being honest, I got tired. For the first time in my whole entire career, I got tired, and I don't know why it happened or how it happened, but I've had a fantastic. I've won. I sit here as a loser tonight, and I feel heartbroken. But mate, I've won in life. You got to understand, when I left school, I had nothing. I had nowhere to go. My 3 boys are multi-millionaires, and I've earned it. I come from great parents. I've got the best father anyone could wish for, and I've got a good mum. So, as I say, I'm proud of what I've done. It's just hard coming out like this.
Yeah, so that's Tony Bellew speaking at his very final post-fight press conference. Like, it's funny, like, working in sport, you get lost in talking about the details of, like I love the NFL, for example, but it's not lost on me that it's absolutely absurd, some of the stuff you come out with, like the technical nuances of it. But when you're at a boxing match, like, it's 1 degree of separation from what's actually from real life. Like, Tony Bellew came from being expelled from school to basically turning his life around and setting his family up for life, and like, you can't miss that emotion. Like, that's real life as much as it is sport, isn't it?
The last few years have been incredible for him. Yeah. If you think that he won a world title at Goodison Park, been in a Rocky film, and he's made a lot of money, like life-changing money. Whereas he would have, early in his career, he would have been fighting for very little. So he's 35, and 3 or 4 years ago, if you'd said, this is what's going to happen, like, he would have just been like, wow. Yeah. And he's sorted for life now. Just don't even contemplate coming back to fight. Oh. He's done it. When he sits down and realises all the dreams that he's achieved, and he can go to Goodison Park now and watch Everton and just relax and do his. I'm sure he'll do a bit of punditry as well. And I think he's won a lot of people over, where a few years ago he was always this loud kind of scouse boxer calling people out, but he's backed it up in the last few years. That's why even going into the fight on Saturday, we said, okay, he has no right to win, but you wouldn't know with Bellew, and okay, he didn't win, but he definitely won a lot of people over with that early performance. No,
his pedigree and his esteem went up in defeat almost. Like, it was a creditable loss, but
he just to go on from that, like, he'd made all the money after the second Hay fight. He'd been in the film, and he still challenged himself to take on what's probably now one of the most dangerous fighters in world boxing, and he gave it his best shot. He came up short, but he can go out. He went out in the Shield, and he can go out with his head held high.
Yeah, it's a remarkable turnaround. Like, my first real memory of him is he was drafted in as a late replacement to fight Nathan Cleverly back when Nathan Cleverly was champ, as a B-side fighter on a Frank Warren show, and it was so last minute that he couldn't actually make the weight in time, and he was going into saunas, and he was basically a laughingstock at the time. And that fight did ultimately happen. It was the first ever fight on Box Nation, and like it was a bit contentious. I think Cleverly probably did edge it, but some people thought Bellew won. Bellew definitely thought he won. Then he avenged that loss a couple of years later in what was, in all honesty, a really bad fight on pay-per-view. And if you had told me then Tony Bellew would establish himself as one of the pay-per-view fighters for Sky, I would have laughed at you. But he fought Masternak, as we mentioned earlier, for no money, really. He bet on himself. Like, he fought Maccabi at Goodison Park, again, for no money. Like, it was a dream, like a box-taking exercise, but he wasn't making much cash out of that. And people forget, he just kind of came from nowhere, really. Like, it wasn't as if he was building to a world title shot. It just opened up in front of him, and he's just gone from strength to strength since then. Yeah,
I'd have to agree. Again, there's not much more to add. He goes out, he's looked after his family, they're set up for life, and it's like everyone likes Tony Bellew, I think. Even people who say they don't like him kind of like him a little bit. So I think he and because he's such an affable character, he could probably slip into co-coms or punditry pretty handily. Mm-hmm. So the future's good for him.
Yeah, like you can see him definitely working, and he'd enjoy it. Like because he could stand in the commentary box now with other former fighters, and he can have his head held high. What he's achieved in the game, and as I said a few years ago, he was known for his mouth. You're never going to shut him up. That's why he probably should get paid to talk. Yeah. But he's backed it up with performances, and he put bums on seats as well. So, as he said there in his press conference, he might have been the loser in terms of the fight, but he certainly has won in the sport of boxing.
Yeah, and just one last point on Usyk, like, it's a real conversation to have that he might be the best cruiserweight of all time. Like, Evander Holyfield obviously can lay claim to that. David Hay, like, in his own right, was brilliant in his day. So, do you think he will ultimately have the same success those two had? Do you think he'll win a world title at heavyweight? Well,
Holyfield achieved a lot more than Hay in heavyweight. So if we're trying to, if he can, I don't know if he can achieve what Holyfield did. I mean, only time will tell. But I said there's definitely a few good fights for him there to kind of get himself established in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, a lot was made of, and in fairness, David Hay went down and fought John Mark Mormack in France, and a lot was made of that, and rightly so. He went in and took the champion's belts off him. Usyk has done that now 5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
so he's definitely, I'd have to say, ahead of Hay in the cruiserweight rankings. I mean, Holyfield, you look back at Holyfield's career because he did this at cruiserweight and then he did that at heavyweight. So he's in the discussion, but so we'll see what he does at heavyweight.
We'll look at the body of work when it's all said and done.
Yeah, but that's the stature he's in already, with another 4 or 5 years to crack the heavyweight division.
Yeah. Right, well, needless to say, Usyk has solidified his spot in most pen-for-pen lists at this stage. We might run through the OTB power rankings later on, but one man certainly in that conversation is Mikey Garcia. He steps up to face Erroll Spence in March in one of the boldest career moves I can remember in recent times, but he's in confident mood.
It's very exciting to finally, land the fight. I've been asking and I've been trying to get this fight for some time now, and people thought I was crazy for even asking or thinking about this fight. A lot of people doubted that this fight would ever happen. But here it is. We proved everybody I was not just playing. I was being serious about it. I'm very excited to be, joining now, the team with Fox and landing a pay-per-view, our first pay-per-view. I think this is the future. I think I'm going the right direction. I'm landing the fights that I want. And, I mean, there's nothing negative about it.
I think at first when you started mentioning that you wanted this fight, people were thinking, what is he thinking, all that. So what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Why take on this fight? And how do you beat Erroll Spence?
Listen, it's the biggest challenge for me. It's the biggest fight, the toughest fight. Because of that, I'm moving up to a 5th division, a division where I haven't even tested the waters yet. And I'm fighting not just any guy. I'm fighting the man who's in control of that division right now. Undefeated, 21 knockouts out of 24 victories. Big guy in front of me. That's just huge. But that's why I want it. I want the toughest guy. I want the biggest challenge. I want the best opponent that can bring out the best out of me too. And I believe that's him.
That's Mikey Garcia talking to our friends at Fino Boxing earlier this week. I know he's moving up to 147, but he might actually struggle to make that weight with the size of his stones, size of his heart. Like this is a big move. Like
even the picture of the two lads beside each other. There's about 3 or 4 inches in height and 4 or 5 inches in reach, but it's the weight, it's the size. Erroll Spence just looked like
monstrous.
So much. Yeah. Now Erroll Spence obviously isn't at his fight weight just yet, but there's certain fights. The one I think back to where you're kind of thinking you're mad is Brook going up to fight Golovkin, and look how that ended. Don't think it'll end that badly though for Garcia.
Is he too brave for his own good, do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Erroll Spence has 11 stoppage wins in a row. And
he broke Kell Brook's face.
He broke Kell Brook's face in his hometown. He's got wins over Algeria and Lamont Peterson as well. Garcia beat Broner in July 2017, but then he had never fought at welterweight. I don't think he's fought at light welterweight either, has he? He's gone up
He has, yeah.
Has he?
Yeah.
So, how did he do there? He won. He was unbeaten.
He got the W, yeah.
But, no, just looking at the two lads, there's gambles and there's... are you sure about this?
He can adapt his style. He's going to have to be more elusive because he gets into brawls and that's why people love him.
Yeah.
But he can't do that with Erroll Spence because if he gets hit consistently, it'll be over.
When you look at people who've jumped up in weight, you think of De La Hoya going up to middleweight and fighting Hopkins, didn't end well. Brook going up fighting Khan, didn't end well. Golovkin, Khan going up and fighting Canelo, didn't end well.
Yeah.
The only one I can really think of a huge weight disparity off the top of my head was Manny Pacquiao and Margarito.
Yeah.
Where it worked out well for the little guy. I suppose Manny Pacquiao and De La Hoya as well.
But they were both kind of operating at the same...
Yeah, De La Hoya was that De La Hoya Pacquiao fight should have an asterisk beside it.
Yeah, it was grim. But the one thing about this, one regrettable aspect of this Garcia-Spence matchup is that we're not going to see Garcia-Lomachenko, which was on the cards for a long time, and the Mikey Garcia's tense relationship with Top Rank is well covered, and in a weird way I think he's probably thinking, if I lose to Spence, no one's going to hold it against me, whereas if I get beaten by Lomachenko, someone who's smaller than me or around the same size, it's a tougher asterisk on his resume.
It looks like we're setting the precedent again where it's going to be Al Heyman's fighters are fighting amongst themselves, Bob Arum's fighters are fighting amongst themselves.
Yeah.
We all want to see Spence and Crawford. So that was the fight to make at welterweight, and if this is the direction we're going, we're keeping two of the best welterweights in their prime away from each other once again.
Yeah, it looks like PBC have got the welterweight division on a bit of lock and key at the moment. Broner Pacquiao is also confirmed for early part of next year.
And Keith Thurman's back, don't forget.
We'll get Keith Thurman. I mean, just count it. But the whole pay-per-view thing, the concept is a bit haywire at this stage. Like Broner Pacquiao, possibly I can see that as a pay-per-view attraction because Pacquiao has a sellable name. Broner's a bit of a mouthpiece, but
bit of a loose cannon.
Garcia and Spence as a pay-per-view, they're both well-spoken lads, but they're not gonna go out and bang the drum for Fox for the first ever pay-per-view event. Yeah,
no, I mean, it goes back to the problem with boxing the whole time. If you look at the comparisons with the UFC, they have 3 or 4 cards on every month in the pay-per-view event. 3 or 4 cards, and more often than not, it's a loaded pay-per-view. There's 2 or 3 fights you want to see in the pay-per-view. Whereas in boxing, almost every big fight's pay-per-view these days, and it's just it's getting it's bleeding boxing fans dry when the best product isn't there for them to be paying for.
Because they're under the same stable. If they wanted to make a proper splash on Fox, they could have doubled that up and put the 2 cards on. That would have done good numbers.
Yeah.
And people who bought the thing to see Pacquiao would be introduced to probably Mikey Garcia and Erroll Spence for the first time. So, you have to question the logic. And we have a similar thing coming up on this side of the Atlantic where just before Christmas, Frampton Warrington's going head to head with White Chisora. and like that's Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn, so there's reason behind that. But I just don't understand Al Heyman pitting pay-per-views against one another. Plus, he's got Wilder against Fury before Christmas, so is he expecting American fight fans to fork out $100?
Yeah,
on
they
a
pay a lot
basis?
more than we do.
Yeah, so I don't know.
They pay a lot more. Now, I suppose the beauty for the American fans is they get to watch it at a normal hour, where
no advertisements either.
Yeah, so like I think back to the big pay-per-view events I would have watched growing up, like, and you used to make a night out of it where
Ali Fraser, isn't it?
No, not quite that old now. I think one of the first pay-per-view fights I watched would have been Tyson Holyfield.
Yeah.
And even we were talking about Holyfield, like going into that fight, he wasn't given a chance.
Really?
So
it's funny how revisionist boxing history can be, because Holyfield's obviously held up as like the toughest SOB that ever got in a boxing ring. But it's interesting to remember that Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet, so no one was given much of a chance against him. As Simon was keen to point out, Keith Thurman is back. Josecito Lopez always brings it, so it's going to be nice to see Keith back just in the ring for, because we touched on it a couple of weeks ago, like pen for pen, resume wise, he's the pick, but he's just been plagued by injuries. The people have questioned his hunger, like he's taken a bit of a sabbatical at this stage. So I think he's going to come back. Are we going to see the same Keith Thurman again, Simon?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Like, he hasn't fought since March 2017 when he schooled Tony Garcia, and that was two undefeated fighters going at it, and it was possibly a pick-em fight at the time, but kind of halfway through you realised this isn't no pick-em fight.
No.
He comes back at a time now when the welterweight division is really bubbling nicely. If we could only get Crawford across from Top Rank to take a few of these guys on. But it would be a bit of a tune-up fight against Lopez, I think. His biggest wins are...
As tune-ups go, like, Lopez he knows his way around the ring. Like, it's not going to be a pushover, but I take your point, all right.
No, he's got knockout losses on his resume against Maidana, Alvarez and Andre Berto. So Thurman, in boxing maths, as you like to say, should get another knockout win.
Yeah.
I think it sets it up nicely if Spence comes through and Thurman wins. I think that's the summer pay-per-view you would pay for.
Yeah. And as we touched on, PBC, very much the home of the welterweights. Danny Garcia takes on Adrian Granados, which is a really good clash of styles, come forward fighter against a sort of boxer puncher. So looking forward to that one. Unfortunately, Terence Crawford's on a bit of an island over at Top Rank. There's not much opposition for him, so he's going to have to get creative with his matchmaking. I don't really know where he's going to go, to be honest. But one welterweight clash that looks set to happen in these parts is Khan against Brook, which is edging ever closer.
Who did you boo when you were in Manchester on Saturday night when they came up on the big screen?
I think Brook got a decent cheer. It was Khan
got booed. Was it for his moustache?
New moustache, yeah.
Yeah, trying to copy Spike, but a poor man's version.
But I remember when Khan fought Phil Greco, he got a rapturous reception that night, and Brook was booed in the ring.
Yeah,
so
that's true, actually. Yeah,
Khan will bring a big fan. If that fight does happen, it'll be 50-50.
See, the night that Khan fights Phil Greco, it's a pro Khan crowd. That
was a neutral crowd.
That was a neutral crowd.
Yeah.
That was a bot like that. So you can see. I think the frustration is everyone. Like, see, Kell Brook is the one that makes all the noise about wanting the fight, and Khan never seems to actually say, "Yeah, I want it too."
He doesn't, no. And he comes up by looks of things.
He basically talks down Kell Brook. He almost kind of like looks past him and say, "Why would I fight this guy? I want to fight better people."
No, we were saying this during the week. It reminded me of the little kind of Ricky Hatton and Junior Witter. Will they, won't they? But it was quite obvious that Ricky Hatton was bringing 95% of the money, the fans, and the attention to the fight.
Yeah.
And then Junior Witter ended up losing his title to Timothy Bradley. So that once that happened, that was that done. But this is a 50-50 in terms of audience,
Hatton
money.
would have beaten Witter.
You think?
Yeah.
I thought Witter's style was all wrong for Hatton. That's an interesting one for another day, but I don't know. Like, I think the reason
just threw it out there.
I think the reason Hatton avoided Witter was because he's bringing no money to the table, as Simon said, and his style is horrific.
Like, I know, why take the risk? I get it. Like, I mean, he obviously.
Whereas, and similar with Khan, because if Khan gets knocked out by Pacquiao, for example, he can come again and fight Kell Brook as a one final payday.
Yeah.
If Kell Brook knocks Khan out, curtains.
That's him done.
That's it.
Which he will, I think.
Yeah, he will. But there's this rehydration clauses. Have you seen this?
Yeah,
so the IBF have mandate this, which is actually a good idea, where you have to be no more than 10 pounds over the fight limit the morning after the weigh-in.
The morning of the fight, basically.
Yeah. But Khan, with no title on the line, is keen to enforce this rule. So if Kell Brook is going to come back down to 147, I think that should be enough. He shouldn't be expected to,
Yeah, I agree. Once you make weight in the scales, we're good to go.
Yeah. So, it's gonna be a weird one. Like
in the long term, I think that's a good idea. But for an excuse of getting out of this fight, no. If Kell Brook makes 147, make the fight. Longer term, though, yes, I think it's a good idea to stop lads cutting the whole way down and then ballooning back up. Yeah,
because if it's a championship fight and you're supposed to be fighting practically at this given weight, if one lad's coming in at 175 and one lad's coming in at 163 or something, like it's...
Yeah.
I remember Danny Jacobs against Golovkin sacrificed the IBF title because he was having none of that, so... and it played out to his advantage because a lot of people thought Jacobs won that fight, so we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully Brook does come together, because it's one of the ones like Froch, Calzaghe got away and Hatton Witter got away, so you want to see these domestic...
Who would have won that Froch Calzaghe fight?
Oh, don't get me started. But I think we're going to disagree on that one as well. So I mentioned we'd get into the off the BRAWL pound for pound list. Presumably everyone's been waiting with bated breath for this. A name we've already mentioned there kicks things off for me.
Everyone's sitting up.
Erroll Spence comes in at number 10 for me. I have him in there on talent because, as we said, in reality he only has one big test on his record, Kell Brook. But I think with Keith Thurman out of the equation through inactivity, I'm going to give Erroll Spence number 10. What do you think of that?
Well, I'll go through your list there now.
He's in the top 10 anyway. I have him in my top 10. I had him higher up.
I have him higher up as well.
Ooh, interesting.
I actually have him behind Mikey Garcia.
Really?
Yeah, but and you'd fancy, obviously we've talked about Errol Spence, you would imagine is going to beat Mikey Garcia, but Mikey Garcia has fought at so many different more weights. I'd say we all have the same number 1, do we?
I'll go through mine and then you can contradict.
Phil,
you can contradict all my mistakes here. So, Sherzakat Rungvisai, the Superfly King at the moment, easy for me to say. He obviously beat Chocolatito twice, and he was many people's number 1 for a long time. So, by dint of that, he deserves a spot in the top 10. Number 8, and heavyweights often get overlooked, in my opinion, for the pound for pound. Like Vlad, when he was reigning supreme for a long time, was. Granted, Mayweather was there for that whole period, but Vlad never really got a look in as pound for pound king. But I have Anthony Joshua at number 8. He's got 3 of the 4 belts. He'll have the 4th soon enough, I imagine. So he deserves his place in the top 10. We're happy to see AJ in there. Is AJ in your list?
We'll get to our list in a second.
Inui comes in at number 7. The most ferocious puncher on the planet at the moment. He's the very definition of pound for pound. You put him in any weight class, his skill set's going to transfer over, and Ryan Burnett's obviously out of the World Boxing Super Series, so it's a pity we're not going to see that clash, but hopefully it'll come together later down the line. Number 6, I regret to say, is Gennady Golovkin. Unfortunately, he's dropped down that far after events a couple of months ago. So
just bend them like that, did you?
I have him at 6 as well.
He's ruthless. Ruthless. Like, you just want winners,
He's hanging in there. He's doing well to get there, but he could soon have his place on the list taken by Callum Smith if rumours are to be believed. There's talk of a big Anfield clash in the spring next year. So, would you advise Golovkin to jump up to super middle, or
that'd be great.
Should he hang on for one final payday with Canelo?
Payday.
Because I don't think that Callum Smith fight would end well for him.
It wouldn't. Not with that left hand.
Not with those body shots.
Yeah.
In front of the cop. Would you enjoy it? Would you go to that one, Phil?
I might do, yeah.
So Triple G comes in at 6 after that contentious loss to Canelo. The record books are the record books, unfortunately, so Canelo will feature later on. It's Mikey Garcia in at number 5 for me here. Much like Inui, he's basically the definition of pound for pound. That skill set he has, works at any weight class. He's very technically proficient and just a great boxer, so he's got the resume to back it up as well. He's got best of both worlds. He's both skillful, and you go through his CV, it's basically second to none. Canelo's in at number 4.
Yeah, me too.
I'm loath to have him in there, indiscretions withstanding, so But again, his CV stands up, so you have to have him.
He's beaten Golovkin whether people want to admit it or not.
And even like there's a shadow over all his other wins at this stage, but he has stepped up and fought good opposition throughout his career basically, and you have to hand it to him in that regard. Speaking of CVs, Oleksandr Usyk, he's in at number 3. He's earned that spot now. Just class. Like I don't think the Bellew win necessarily adds to his esteem in the boxing circles, because like his 3 previous wins were probably more impressive, but it'll do wonders for his commercial value, as Simon said. You know, it's more of a sellable story. People know Tony Bellew through the Rocky stuff, and the knockout itself is gonna do wonders for him.
I know we didn't talk about it because you were at the fight. Was he better than you thought he was going to be, Usyk?
I thought it would be more of a clinic, to be honest. I thought he'd win most of the rounds, but Bellew, I was more impressed by Bellew. I was very, very impressed by him. So we spoke of the welterweights there, and we said that one man that's left out of the loop, unfortunately, is Terence Crawford. But in terms of skill, hopefully the matchups come for him. But on pedigree alone, I'm going to put him in at number 2. He just might struggle to find the competition, which is a real shame. And then number 1, there's obviously, doesn't need to be said, even like Vasily Lomachenko is the best fighter I've ever seen, so he's in at number 1, and I don't think there's going to be anyone moving him anytime soon. So lads, feel free to contradict all of that.
No. There's a lot of
any honourable mentions.
Like
Lewis Ritson, we put him in?
No, not yet.
I didn't have a laptop kind of PowerPoint display ready. I just had a list of fighters. So I went with AJ at 10.
Yeah.
Mikey Garcia at 9.
Yeah.
Leo Santa Cruz at 8. Keith Thurman, a late call up. Now that he's back in the...
I suppose it was an active...
He was back in the roster.
But he hasn't fought.
Leo Santa Cruz is doing very well to get into that list.
Really?
Well, just
you haven't seen my list yet.
Just a point there, the running order text last night was, lads, pound for pound list. There was no inactive lads injured. It was just...
That's just standard practice.
Yeah,
sorry if you can't keep it up to date with
well,
this.
the fight was announced yesterday, so he's active again as far as I'm concerned.
When he throws a punch...
it's like if you're talking about player of the season, you're not going to mention an injured player.
Kevin De Bruyne.
He's not playing.
But it's a pound for pound list. Anyway, Keith Thurman at 7. Gennady Golovkin at 6, Ronan. I have Terence Crawford at 5. And I have him down that low because...
Harsh.
CVs. He beat Benavidez Jr. in his last fight, who, let's be honest...
First undisputed champion since Bernard Hopkins, Simon. Terence Crawford.
Yeah, but it's CVs here we're talking.
Yeah.
He beats... like Benavidez Jr. was shot in the leg a year before he fought him, and he was basically carrying that around the ring with him. And other than that, okay, he handed Yuriorkis Gamboa his first defeat, but the CV, for me, to bump him up any higher isn't really there. Canelo at 4. Erroll Spence at 3.
You really believe he is the truth?
Yeah. Well, the next year will really show where he's at.
But on the CV point, like who's he beaten?
Brook, Algieri, Peterson. It's a better CV than Crawford's CV, so I'd have him ahead of Crawford.
No. I ain't having it, pal. Give me your 2 and 1. Come on.
Well, you must know them. Usyk at 2.
Yeah.
And Lomachenko at 1.
Stuff. We can all agree on number 1, I think, can we?
Yeah. I went with AJ at 10.
Yeah, me too.
I have Santa Cruz at 9.
Ronan's been outvoted here.
I have a Nui at 8.
Yeah.
I went for Errol Spence at 7. I have the man that he's fighting in March, Mikey Garcia, at 6.
Mm-hmm.
I've Usyk down in 5 because...
I thought you were better than this, Phil.
But I imagine he'll keep going up.
Yeah.
I've gone for Triple G at 4, and he's behind Alvarez because if I'm putting Alvarez, Canelo's so high up, you know, I felt I have to put Triple G right behind him because, you know, you could argue that Triple G has won both fights when they've fought. Then I've gone for Crawford at 2, and then obviously Lomachenko at number 1. I mean, nobody's going to topple Lomachenko.
I just love Lomachenko.
Yeah, and I was off yesterday, so I said, right, I was just going around trying to watch fights or whatever, and I had the Lomachenko and Linares fight, which was one of the best fights of the year. I know we'll probably
Is that in the running for an off the BRAWL star, Phil?
It could be
fight of the year.
But Linares, like I think he's class as well.
And he's up another weight class now, so he's looking for world title number 4. Linares is fantastic as well. He's an honourable mention for him as well in terms of
obviously this. I mean, there's going to be people viewing this or listening that feel free to.
It's the ultimate barroom debate. Like.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's probably people we've left out, and even
who's number 11? Like who's threatening to get into that list in 2019? Like I think Callum Smith deserves a mention.
Yeah, definitely.
What he's done at super middleweight, like it only really came together for him, and Groves is the marquee name on his resume. But I think by this time next year, he'll have tallied up. Like if that Golovkin fight comes together, he'll parachute into that list right quick. So anyone else you want to give a wee honourable mention to?
Like winner of Carl Frampton, Josh Warrington was going to get a mention. Obviously the winner of Fury and Wilder.
If Tyson Fury's watching this, he won't be too happy.
No, but
he's pretty inactive as well though.
Lineal. See the picture of him, by the way? See the picture of he's the shape he's in now. Yeah,
when he puts his mind to it, he can really do it. Like,
we can see his abs. Like
our next show will be a bit of a Fury Wilder special, so we'll get into all the intricacies around that. But it's the tactics we'd be worried about there. Peter Fury's a big loss, I feel. So it's just whether he has the game plans to. Like I'm sure his game plan is pretty black and white. He's going to keep it at distance and try and stay away from Wilder's big right hand, basically. But if things need to be switched up, I'm not sure Ben Davison has the wherewithal to do that on the spot. And we've seen in recent weeks how important trainers are in turning the tide of a fight. So, Simon, any last honourable mention from you?
On the pound for pound list? No, you asked for 10, you got 10.
All right.
Yeah, but there can be a few other ones like Taylor.
Josh Taylor, yeah.
Taylor. He'll be in it soon, won't he?
Oh, he'll be thereabouts. He's phenomenal too.
Yeah.
So we'll be keen to get everyone's thoughts on that. So if you have anyone we've obviously left out because we probably have.
There's going to be loads.
Give us a shout.
There's going to be people on our list that people are saying you're mad.
But I know Andy Lee, each time he's been in, has earmarked Crawford and Lomachenko as his top 2. So he'll be in agreement anyway. We can rest assured Andy has our back. Speaking of him, Andy and our own Neil Tracy were, along with Niall Kelly of the 42.ie fame, at the launch of his book. I can't recommend it highly enough. Really brilliantly written. We'll hopefully have some signed copies to give away before Christmas at some stage. But here's a taster of how Neil and Andy got on at that launch down in Limerick.
If you're sparring with the world heavyweight champion, just keep an eye on how hard you're throwing punches.
Oh, yeah. Don't hit him too often, right before a big fight, yeah. We'd spar, but I learned a lot from Vladimir Klitschko in my time, he's probably one of the, not the only one, probably one of the main people who I looked up to when I was fighting, and saw how he conducted himself and how he trained. And even though heavyweight's notoriously lazy, but he trained as hard as anybody I've seen, and he was immaculate in his professionalism, and he was very competitive too. As I learned, I hit him with 1 or 2 jabs too many, and he hit me. I don't even know if it was a hard shot, but I got it. Yeah, I got it. What was it? Vertigo? That's what they call it. Yeah. Every time I laid down, the room would spin, and this was a week before a fight, so I kind of kept it to myself. Didn't tell anybody. And I won the fight anyway.
Slight knock to your pride.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That's Neil Tracy in conversation with Andy Lee and Niall Kelly from the 42. Andy's been doing a bit of acting, as he touched on in last time he was in. Do you think that we're going to see the feature film Andy Lee the movie?
Could do. He certainly has the style for a movie star.
Yeah. Do you think he'd play himself?
Yeah. If he goes to the director and says, I want to play myself, I mean, he'd be a brave director to turn him down.
He's definitely got the life story to back it up. Are any particularly fond memories, Simon, from Andy's career that you'd like to see on the big screen?
You've kind of seen most of them on the big screen, if you know what I mean. It's just Andy's story from just losing that the Olympic countback, and he was the one fighter at the time. We didn't boxing or amateur boxing in Ireland was kind of struggling, and he went off. And when you heard he was going off to fight with to be trained by Emmanuel Stewart, you're kind of like, that can't be right. And it was a beautiful relationship. We got to watch it flourish, and he learned from one of the best trainers, over the last 30 or 40 years in America. And like, he capped his career off with a world title, and you know, fair play to him, and we wish him all the best. That's all I can really say. I really enjoyed watching him fight. He conducted himself brilliantly, you know, and it just worked out well for him. And he's out now, and he seems to be enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And the beauty of his career, Phil, is that you can just use the footage from the fights themselves because they're dramatic enough. They stand up.
Yeah, like that's a highlight reel right there. Like, and so many right hands. I'm always wonder what it must be like for a boxer facing a guy like Andy, where you know, even if you think you're winning rounds, that you could get dropped with one punch.
Yeah.
Or, as in the night that he won the world title, Karabov was stunned with that, and then there was just a barrage of punches that he couldn't answer to. But yeah, it's just the right hook. Yeah, there was a few fights where he pulled it out, and
Earl Daniels, his great descriptions of how he can still feel that sensation of landing that shot. It's just a remarkable thing that only boxers can probably relate to, and just the book is beautifully written, and it's a real work of literature as much as it is a boxing book. Like, there's some boxing books which are clearly just been put together at the last minute on time for the Christmas market, but Andy's clearly, as you know by talking to him, he's a really thoughtful person, and they've clearly put a lot of work into it, so I'd recommend it. And we'll be sure to catch up with Andy soon. We'll have a chat about it next time he's in.
Well, just to go back, one more memory, the knockout of Jackson was the one for me, because if you watch it again, he was backing up, Jackson was on the front foot. I think Andy twisted his ankle, or he went over oddly on his ankle as he was trying to get back into position, and you could see Jackson going, got him. He came flying in, and he said, not this time, son. Poof. And your man was just, there he is, walk away, did it again, and he was like, yes, you did.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Andy'll definitely be in before Christmas, so we'll touch on all that with him. I think that's a wrap from us today, though, lads. Cheers for that.
No,
and thanks to producer Tom for the top job as always.
Tom Nugent, yeah. We'll
be back in a couple of weeks to preview the big heavyweight fight of 2018. That's Creed against Drago. That's coming up.
The ads are happening.
Are we excited?
I've seen them, yeah, November 30th. Are we going?
How pumped are you, Phil? Come on.
Ah, yeah. Like, I've been trying to think about what happens. I'm sure I could read spoilers.
Creed's stepping up in weight as well. Like, it's just an epidemic in boxing at the moment, Simon.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what makes it so real and to the core, that he's stepping up in weight to take on the son of the man who killed his father.
This time it's personal.
You can't script this stuff.
This time it's personal.
It's very personal.
We might squeeze in some Fury Wilder chat in that episode as well, but thanks for listening and good luck.